Hello, and welcome to the Complete Lakers podcast. I'm Anthony Wilson, recording from Los Angeles, California. Just about 20 minutes ago, the Lakers got finished beating the Timberwolves 128 to 110 from the arena formerly known as the Staples Center. Um, Luka Doncic continues his scorching start to the season. He had 49 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists. He was 14 of 23 from the field, 5 of 12 from three, and 16 of 19 from the free throw line. Basically, Luka, he's 26 years old, uh, and I feel like he's, you know, he's hitting his prime as a scorer now. Um, he's averaged 33, 34 points a game before. And you got to figure he'll average at least that many again this year, even with, arguably, especially once LeBron comes back, more help than he's ever had on the offensive side of the ball. I feel like he's in 2006 Kobe mode, basically. Uh, just a shark who smells blood in the water. Kobe was 27 that year when he averaged 35 a game. Like I said, Luka's already averaged before, pretty much been there, uh, average wise, scoring wise, um, and he's going to be right there again this year. This is look, last year I think Luka averaged like 28, but at this point, I mean, a normal Luka season he's averaging 33 plus points per game. That's just who he is, and he's just, like I said, he's just in that zone. Really just he's like I said, he was already arguably the best scorer in the league. Now I feel like there's really no question. As good as Shea is, Shea draws a lot of fouls. As a pure scorer right now in the NBA, I don't think there's anybody better than Luka Doncic. He's a machine right now. And then so Austin Reeves had 25 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists. He shot 9 for 15 from the field, 2 for 5 from three, and made all 5 of his free throws. So, he just continues his strong start. Also, Rui Hachimura was probably he and DeAndre Ayton the X factor tonight, actually, probably. Because you know what you're going to get from Luka and Austin. But Rui had 23 tonight on 10 of 13 shooting. And something I noticed is that LeBron, who people said where he was disengaged on the bench in the first game, well, I noticed that Rui made a couple strong plays there. And LeBron, he got up off the bench and, celebrated. I know that he and Rui, they're close. They work out together. So maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe it's like, well, I'll celebrate when my boy does something, but anybody else, screw the Lakers, right? Because that's feel like he's trying to punish the Lakers a little bit because of the situation of him not having a contract with them going forward after this year. But yeah, that's just something that I noticed tonight. And then DeAndre Ayton, he had 15 points and 8 rebounds on 7 of 11 shooting. So that, better than the first game. We only had 10 points and 6 rebounds. For the Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards had 31 and Julius Randle had 28, but it wasn't enough. And I think that it just goes to show, like, I mean, if you look at that series last year, I mean, the Timberwolves, I know part of it was that they were just hella fired up to beat the Lakers because of all the Lakers and 5 stuff. And you had Julius, it was a revenge series for him. But also the Lakers just really had zero good sides. I mean, nothing against Jackson Hayes. By the end of the series, JJ wouldn't even play him. So, Aiden being out there and being able to, get 15 and 8 and just be big, you see the difference it made. He went from, barely winning the game against him last year, losing in 5, And then tonight we beat them by 18 while still missing a big piece in LeBron James. So it just goes to show the difference. People try to act like, oh my goodness, DeAndre Ayton, he's not going to work. That's not, come on. Guy's been a good player his whole career. You know, now he gets to play with Luka, he gets to play with Austin Reeves. LeBron comes back, he gets to play with LeBron. The guy is even if he's not that good, his presence alone makes a big difference. You know, um, and then the other thing I wanted to say is that I feel like with Luka and Austin pretty much looking like the new West and Goodrich for the Lakers. Just this dynamic offensive backcourt. Of course, I choose West and Goodrich not only because they're the best backcourt. Well, are they the best backcourt? I mean, there's I'm talking about in Lakers history, right? So there's West and Goodrich, but then there's Magic and Byron, there's Magic and Norm. Uh, so that's a tough one. I would probably have to give the West and Goodrich the nod though because they're both Hall of Famers. Byron is as good as he was. He was never an All Star, and then Norm had a couple All Star teams. He was really fantastic, but he's not in the Hall of Fame. So, uh, I probably have to give West and Gilbert a nod there. And and of course, with Luke and Austin both being having the complexion that they have, that's why I make it was just like an easy, you know, uh, connection to make. Um, but yeah, I feel like the way that Luca and Austin are playing, uh, it, LeBron, it's really this team is kind of set up perfectly for LeBron to just slot right in and just kind of get in where he fits in. Now, it's hard to imagine what that would look like because LeBron has always been the focal point of the offense. And even last year, um, after the trade, after the Luka trade, uh, you watch the games, and he's still, his presence out there and the way he plays is still, it's still so, uh, how do I say this? It's conspicuous, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean he's still LeBron James out there, you know. It's like certain guys, um, they get later in their career and they, like, most classic example is, Kareem on the Lakers later in his career, or somebody like Karl Malone and Gary Payton, when they were with the Lakers, later in their careers. Uh, we have these all-time great players, and they're able to take a lesser role, and it doesn't seem weird, really, right? But with LeBron, um, because of the way that he plays, because he needs the ball, and even last year, like I said, after the trade with him uh, playing off the ball a little bit more, uh, it's like it's hard for him to be inconspicuous out there. But if there's a way for it to happen, where he maybe averages, 18 to 21 points a game or something like that, uh, and like I said, just sort of fits, gets in where he fits in. While Luka and Austin, who are much younger, they carry the offense on most nights. Uh, that would be amazing. But it's hard. Like I said, it's hard to imagine what that looks like because LeBron has always been someone who, whenever he's on the court, he attracts so much attention and he does so much. It's hard to imagine what that would look like. But if it could happen, that would be that would be great. You know, so uh, we'll just have to see. You know, how it works out. But yeah, I was talking to Galvez. I think yesterday, I was talking about the early schedule. I said, yeah, they play the Timberwolves on Friday. And Galvez goes, well, that's 0-2, which is the same thing I was thinking. And they were able to come out there and get that victory tonight. So shout out to the Lakers, man. They showed some pride tonight. They didn't want to go to 0-2. Like I said to Galvez, Lakers go 0-2, and everybody starts losing their minds. Um, Next up, we got the Kings on Sunday. If I'm not mistaken, Sabonis, he played tonight, and the Kings won. Yeah, he actually scored the game-winning bucket for the Kings tonight. So he played. I think he had missed some time, and I said last episode that I thought he wasn't going to play, but he played tonight, so he'll play on Sunday. Obviously, he had 12 points and 12 rebounds tonight for the Kings. So yeah, that's going to be one. That's going to be that one is going to be in Sacramento. So I feel like the Lakers now. If they can beat the T-Wolves tonight, even though it's at home, they should be able to beat the Kings on Sunday. Especially if Luka stays hot and Austin keeps playing well and Ayton does anything. They should be able to beat the Kings. And then it's Portland after that. And of course, Portland, I'll get to them in a minute. They won tonight, actually. Obviously, everybody knows what I'm going to be talking about. But should I just should I get that or should I? No. Let me just. There's just a few more things I wanted to talk about before I got to that. Which is BJ Edgecombe, his debut, he had 34 points, which is the most by a rookie in their debut since Wood had. I'm sure how many have it. The most since Wood in 1959. So that's how Edgecombe came out. Edgecombe was a guy who his name rang out in college. He went to Baylor. I checked him out, and I don't really know what to make of him. But he's the first game I was just watching the highlights, and he's obviously he's like 6'4". Anytime you think about this guy 6'4" shooting guard, first name people that come to mind are D Wade and then Anthony Edwards, right? But he doesn't remind me of either one. He reminds me of as a young Ray Allen. If you guys remember when Ray Allen was at UConn and when he first came into the league with Milwaukee, Ray Allen was obviously he was a pure shooter, and Edgecombe is not the pure shooter that Allen is, although he had 5 threes and shot 13 of them in the first game. But Ray back then he would take you off the dribble, he would dunk on you, and they also have similar builds. Ray was 6'5", Edgecombe 6'4", 6'5", similar builds, and that's who just the way Edgecombe moves out there. That's who he reminds me of. And like I said, he's not the pure shooter that Ray Allen was, but in every other way, that's what he reminds me of. So, and you look at the other guys who were picked ahead of him, like Cooper Flagg has been so first 2 games. I think he played better tonight than he did in the first game. And then there's Dylan Harper. It's going to I forget if he went 3rd or 4th in the draft, but Amari Bailey, he ended up falling. So he hasn't. I don't know. I'm not sure what he did tonight. He didn't do much in the first game. But yeah, Edgecombe. It's a great start. So Philly, man, they got some guards. Obviously Maxey, Edgecombe, and then Jared McCain. I don't know when he's going to be back, but he was looking great last year as a rookie before he got hurt. Obviously the older guys, PG and Embiid, they've been disappointing. Uh, PG since he got there, only there 1 year, like sucked last year though. And then Embiid in that first game, I don't know if he got the double digits. He looked terrible. Uh, but their future. I mean, the young guards they have. I mean, they have something to look forward to at least. I want to say something about Aaron Gordon, who he hit 10 threes last night. Um, and he got to 50, didn't he? 50 points. And I just wanted to say that, I have so much respect for him because this is not a guy who's a natural shooter. This is really the type of guy who, he would have fit in sort of in like the 90s or the early 2000s. And, what's weird about him is that he's never been a big rebounder. But because he wasn't he's not a natural shooter. He's more of a traditional type of power forward. He's a great athlete, but he willed himself to become a good shooter, not only for his own benefit, but for the benefit of his team. And I think I just have so much respect for him. I just respect anybody who comes in and they have a weakness in their game, and they work so hard on it that it becomes a strength. Like, there's been other guys like, when Karl Malone first came in the league, he couldn't shoot, made himself a good shooter. Same thing with Patrick Ewing, you know. So I respect guys like that, And so Gordon now, I mean that was kind of the thing that kind of like stuck out like a sore thumb for that Nuggets team. When they won that ring, is that it's a modern game, and Gordon couldn't really shoot threes, but now he can shoot threes, and Joker shoots threes. So now everybody on the court for the Nuggets is a threat from 3-point range. So Joker's another guy who, he's like, okay, well, if that's what I need to do is shoot threes, I'll start shooting more threes, and that's what he's doing. So, it's still kind of weird to think of Gordon as a 3-point shooter, but the guy hit 10 threes. Was he 10 for 10? He hit 10. I know he hit the 10 threes. It might have been 10 for 10 from 3. So, shout out to him for working on his game. And then lastly, before I get to the gambling scandal, Victor Wembanyama had 40 points in the first game. They beat the Mavericks. And he had 29 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 blocks tonight in only 32 minutes because he fouled out. But they beat the Pelicans in overtime. And when I tell you, man, that guy is something else, man. I think in this era, look at it. Since Golden State won their 4th one in 2022, you look at it, you go back. 2019 it was Toronto, 2020 it was the Lakers, 2021 it was Milwaukee, then it was Golden State, then it was Denver, then it was Boston. Last year it was OKC. Well, this is obviously an era of parity. It's not an era of like a dominant team. OKC does seem like the type of team that could, they'll probably win more than one, if not 3 or something like that. But man, this Wemby guy is so good. He's the type of guy that it's like, you look at it and go, it's only a matter of time before the Spurs take over with a player like that. He's just a complete alien, and it's really, and they got such good young players around them, Harper and Vassell and Castle, and De'Aaron Fox hasn't even played yet this season. All these guards, and he's in year 3 now. So like year 3, a lot of times it's the leap year. It's the year where guys really start hitting their stride, and that's what he's doing. And he was great the first 2 years. But he just looks like, one of my guys, guy I've been following a long time on Twitter, my boy KD, Uh, not Kevin Durant, a different KD. But he said that I saw when he said Wemby had that big preseason game, and he goes, "We really have a will." That's what my guy KD said. And yeah, man, he's just a complete. It's like we have a modern day. He's like the Wilt Chamberlain of his time. You know, the same way that Wilt back then was just so dominant and so different. That's what Wemby is now, and he's just getting started. It was like 21 or something like that. So it's just gonna be, and I'm just like, you know, when the Spurs take over, I'm gonna be happy because you know, obviously I grew up watching the Duncan Spurs, but you know, the Admiral first, and then you know Parker and Ginobili, and obviously Popovich, you know, overseeing the whole thing. So you know, Spurs, you know, they were rivals of the Lakers. They weren't bitter rivals of the Lakers, right? So you know, it was always more of a you know a mutual respect thing, game recognizes game thing. And so when they take over, which is you know like inevitable, when that happens and they start winning their championships, I'm not gonna be mad about it. I'm like, this is cool. It's just like when I was a kid, you know. So looking forward to that. All right, now on to the biggest story of sports this week. Not the biggest news story this week. Obviously, this gambling scandal is happening. I asked Grok AI to summarize it for me, and I'm going to read that summary now. The 2025 NBA gambling scandal, which erupted on October 23rd, 2025, just days into the league's new season, refers to a major federal investigation into illegal sports betting and rigged poker operations. It resulted in over 30 arrests across 11 states, including high-profile NBA figures and exposed ties to New York mafia families. The schemes allegedly generated tens of millions in illicit profits through inside information on games and manipulated high-stakes card games. This marks the NBA's second major betting controversy in 2 years, following the 2024 lifetime ban of Jonte Porter for similar violations. And of course, there was the allegations against Malik Beasley, or the investigation into Malik Beasley, which he was later cleared of. Uh, the FBI and NYPD's Joint Organized Crime Task Force began probing unusual betting patterns in NBA games, initially flagging Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier in March 2023. He was cleared by the NBA at the time. The probe expanded to include rigged poker games and sports betting rings. Two federal indictments were unsealed, charging 34 individuals. This is more recent. This is late yesterday. Two federal indictments were unsealed, charging 34 individuals with crimes including wire fraud, money laundering, extortion, and illegal gambling. Arrests spanned New York and other states, with NBA-related figures detained in Florida and Oregon. The NBA placed Rozier and Chauncey Billups on indefinite leave. Court appearances for the NBA defendants occurred the same day, with trials expected to unfold over months. Chauncey was accused of acting as a face card, a celebrity draw to lure players into rigged mafia-run poker games in New York. Scary Terry allegedly tipped off associates about his own injury, wink wink, quote unquote, in a February 2023 game, enabling over $200,000 in bets on his underperformance. He had cooperated with the FBI and NBA in 2023, but was re-indicted based on new evidence. And then, of course, there's Damon Basketball Jones. When I was a youngster, that's what we call him, Basketball Jones. So it says that Damon was charged with selling non-public injury info on prominent players. LeBron was one, reportedly. to gamblers. His gambling addiction reportedly cost him millions post-career. So Damon was he was the allegation comes from when he was an assistant with the Lakers on Darvin Ham's staff, unpaid assistant in 2022-23. The indictments implicate four New York mafia families in running the operations. No evidence yet ties the scheme to game fixing, but at least 7 NBA games from February 2023 to March 2024 were exploited via insider tips on player risks or injuries, often linked to taking strategies. Uh, yeah, so um, the scandal has renewed scrutiny of the NBA's deep ties to legal sports betting, including 76 billion in media deals and partnerships with DraftKings and FanDuel. Critics, including lawmakers, argue that it highlights the risk of unregulated gambling's corrupting influence on sports, sparking calls for federal oversights. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver has vowed full cooperation with authorities, emphasizing the league's monitoring tools, but acknowledging federal resources outpace their own. The case underscores gambling's entrenched culture in NBA locker rooms, from high-stakes card games on flights to insider leaks. So, thank you again to Grok. Um, this is just one of those things, bro, where, so I saw some things that, as far as Chauncey goes, I saw some things, I'm a guy who, as a betting man, as somebody who bets on Prize Picks every single day, right? The thing I know is the sketchiest thing you notice is coaches, right? When I was a kid, my dad, I used to watch the games, Laker games, and my dad would go like, my dad would like be like, bro, when the refs can control the game, and he was talking about the mafia and stuff like that. And he was like, the refs can control the pace of the game and the flow of the game and like the outcome, just by doing little small things like, getting guys in foul trouble, stuff like that, right? Getting Shaq in foul trouble, stuff like that, And I'd be like, well, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't believe him. And then I started betting, as an adult a few years ago. And, the stuff I see, bro, with these, it's not the referees and it's not the players so much, it's the coaches. But their substitution patterns. And, Chauncey, I'm not sure, because it's kind of confusing. I've seen some stuff where people, I'm not sure if it's like, if that's part of the indictment against him, is that he, was basically doing stuff, or they were tanking or something like that, the Blazers were, and he was somehow helping rig bets based on that information or whatever. But that type of stuff with the coaches, where I'm watching the game, I'm like, why is this coach, whoever it is, why would he sit his starters for the whole fourth quarter, and it's just it's a close, tight game. Why would he do that? Why you take this guy out and don't put him in at his regular time to come back in the game? It's just stuff that doesn't make basketball sense. And that's the thing that I really hope that they, I'm really glad this is happening. I remember I used to, because, it's like, you're betting, and it's like prize picks. Like, remember one time I was talking to my friend Jason Wolf. I used to sit up and think about, now when I say this, to be clear, I used to sit up and I would think about, like, how can I figure out a way to beat, prize picks? But I don't mean it like in a legal way, just meaning like, betting unders, betting overs, betting, mixing and matching. How can I figure out how to do it? And I remember Jason goes, everything that you've thought of, that anybody could possibly think of to try to figure out how to beat the gambling machine, the people who make these apps and stuff, they already thought about that. It made it like it's basically impossible, right? And so, so it's like it's hard enough as it is, and then you have to worry about where the coaches, like purposely doing stuff to, manipulate the system for their gain or for the gain of other people or whatever. And so I'm glad that this is happening because I almost feel like we were just hopeless. We didn't have a chance. But I'm glad that Patel and the FBI, they're cracking down on this type of stuff. And I really hope they start looking at these coaches more and looking at their substitution patterns and some of the unusual things that they'll do during games. They make you go, does this guy have the under on this player, or does he uh, does he did he take his a certain point spread and he needs his team to lose to cover the spread or whatever it is, right? And you know, uh, that's really what I'm excited about. This one. The other thing about this that's exciting for me is that um, you know, anytime the mafia is involved, see the mafia, of course we all watched Godfather, Goodfellas, Casino, Bronx Tale, Donnie Brasco, all these great movies. I like Bugsy, all these great mob movies. And, of course it glamorizes the mafia in this country, the American mafia, like Cosa Nostra, but, the American version of the Italian mafia. And it glamorized it, and we all love the movies and stuff like that. And then, but at a certain point, I think it started with Giuliani when he cracked down in New York. And then the mafia, which went from being front page news, they became, had to kind of, they went underground. And I just think it's, it's like, rest in peace to Frank Cali. So when he got killed, I was like, damn, they knocked off a mob boss in broad daylight, and ended up being just some kid who was dating his niece. And, but I got excited for that, just for that reason. I was like, damn, the mob is back. And so for this, to see the mafia get, I mean, not that I'm happy that they got cracked, but just to see them back in the news again. I think that's pretty cool. Because I really, I got to experience the mafia more through movies and stuff like that, instead of if I had been born, 20 years earlier, I would have been able to, live through and, the Gotti era. Even though I was in LA, I would have been able to live through that type of stuff as it was happening. Guys getting whacked in the street and stuff like that. So yeah, that's another thing about it that was that I took away from it. But yeah, man, overall, I don't know what they're gonna do. I'm just glad that they're doing something about it. Because it gives people like me who bet on the games. It gives me the guys like us. It gives us a better chance. Um, but yeah, man. I think that's it. So before I get out of here, just a reminder to hit that subscribe button next to the Complete Podcast Network and to follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at TC Pod Network. You can also send feedback and mailback questions to Complete Lakers Podcast at gmail.com. I am out.